This is a lark's story, content yet seeking more. Shut up. The lark flies far, for she loves naught but to explore. Shut up. Shut up, shut up, shut up. No, I say, turning my head in the direction of the noise. It's a good sound. No. Refusal. Negation. Denial. A sound that means things. Easy and fun to say. When I started losing the hard shell around my body, at first I was afraid. I still am a little, but at least a mouth like this makes the noises much easier to make. And besides, my teeth are as sharp as ever. I returned to practicing the fun sounds, to the irritated groans of my two favorite meals. I don't understand most of what they're saying, but I'll remember it. Someday, I'll figure out what the sounds mean, and then I'll know. This is all your fault, the loud one hisses. I'm sorry, the beautiful one answers. I figured out a numbing spell, at least. Are you feeling better? Fuck you. Figure out a plague spell and kill us already. I'm sorry, the beautiful one says again. The loud one usually says Claretta at some point when speaking to it. Likewise, the beautiful one will say Fulvia when talking to the other. Never the reverse. Most sounds are said by both, or not said often enough for me to tell. Those are different. I wonder why. The loud one is horribly, horribly annoying, but particularly delicious, so I need to make sure it lives. Sometimes I try to make it shut up. I even tried binding its face in webs, but the beautiful one tends to start making horrible noises too when I do things like that. It rather defeats the point of keeping it if it doesn't make the healing sounds, so I have to stop. Oh, well. This is easily still the most wonderful part of my short life. Truly, it can't get better than this. Not unless I manage to collect more of these interesting creatures. Soon I tire of practicing noises, crawling over the beautiful one to rest on its belly. Warm and soft, I quite enjoy descending into torpor on it. These strange creatures tend to lose awareness when they rest, which seems silly. How did such creatures survive before they had me to protect them? I let my eyes close, thoughts drifting off and heartbeat slowing. The relaxing bob of my sleeping spot as it inhales and exhales inevitably causes my mind to wander. The first movement, the first feeling, is a fall. Adrenaline rising, heart pumping, the thing which does not know to call itself me feels the drop. The tumble. The instinctive fear, without apparent cause or context. Only an inexplicable knowledge that sometime soon, there would be a crunch. Pain, horrible pain. Crashing endlessly. Head over heels, more falls and more crunches follow. Broken and bruised, the beast that would one day recognize itself to be me vomits fluids from its lungs, gasping its first painful breaths. Eyes blinked open, liquid gunk and blood getting wiped away as I take my first look at the world. A massive mound of stacked black ovoids lie before me, cracked and smashed. Many still fall, some surviving the trip to the ground largely unscathed, but others impacting on the mound and shattering, disgorging some kind of black creature that stirs a new instinct within me. Hunger. I try to leap towards my meal, only to have pain shoot through my body as one of the limbs I'm apparently supposed to use for the purpose fails to function. It's twisted and leaking in ways quite unlike the limb opposite to it. I feel no desire to care about this in the slightest, simply noting it before dragging myself over to my meal. It squirms and oozes, a long, black carapace with many twitching, spindly bits extending off of it. I enjoy the sight of motion. It whets my appetite. Leaning over the creature, I open my mouth wide and bite down, crunching through chitin and savoring the delicious, juicy prize within. Pleasure fills me as I swallow, but is gone in an instant. My hunger is unabated. Bite after bite, I tear into my prize as it writhes beneath me, relishing the intense joy of the meal for instant after instant, mouthful after mouthful. The experience only makes me want more. Caught in frenzy, I eat and eat until suddenly my teeth sink through flesh and feel no joy in the act. I look down, indignant and furious. More than half my meal still remains, and I am still hungry. Yet I feel no desire to eat it. I take another bite, experimentally tasting and swallowing. But there is nothing. The creature does not move or resist. It is now dead, and for some reason no longer contains what I was eating it for in the first place. Examining the creature, I notice it is the same dark color as both myself and the ovoid from which it dropped out of. Despite our identical color, however, I look nothing like the other creature. Where it is somewhat cylindrical and many-legged, my body has a much different shape, and only 6 limbs. Yet did I, too, hatch from an egg like this? It seems likely I did. I remember tumbling out of something, after all. Perhaps one of the cracked, black things above me? Sure enough, many of the others begin to hatch, dispensing dark-colored yet wildly different creatures that I somehow know are fresh and full of the beautiful, joyous something that I must eat. I try to pounce on one again, and to my belated surprise, it works perfectly this time. My broken limb now looks the same as my others. Eating must have fixed it. How pleasant. Teeth tearing into my prey, I resume gorging myself, shuddering at the delicious splashes of satisfaction that briefly overwhelm my endless hunger with each swallow. Yet this meal is feistier, seeming inclined to bite back. I yelp in surprise as its teeth sink into me in turn, gouging a bleeding chunk from my forelimb in much the same way I am doing to it. So we are similar, even though we look different. Not that I spend much time thinking about it. Prey is prey. Wrestling this struggling food to the ground, I take more bites from its belly as I hold its face in the dirt. Such wonderful flavor. Pain shoots through me from behind. Another one of my kin is attacking me as well. I kick furiously, trying to shake it off. I am eating. Leave me be. My angry jabs don't dissuade it in the slightest. It's a hulking thing, standing on 2 back limbs and swinging sharp forelimbs that threaten to cut straight through my chitin. I'm forced to turn my attention to fighting it. And when I do, my former meal bites at my leg. Slowly, I come to the realization that many inky-skinned creatures are emerging from eggs around me, screeching and fighting and bleeding and gnawing. 2 more head my way now, even. My belly cares not. Stay and fight. Stay and eat. Hissing furiously, I throw myself into the fray, biting wildly at my enemies. My food. All is food. I will consume them to the last. One of my limbs is sheared clean off, but I tear into my target with vigor. Another joins me, stealing my meal, and yet another leaps on top of me, knocking me from my prize and tearing open my leg with their teeth. Suddenly, I'm the one being eaten. A powerful limb holds my head down, my teeth snapping in vain as large chunks of my body are torn out, black blood dripping from the serrated fangs of my tormentor. I have to eat them back. I must. But I cannot move. No matter how I thrash and flail, I cannot free myself. Again and again, teeth tear into my side. Pain and fear join my hunger, and something beyond mere flesh is torn from me with every bite. Soon, I will also lack what makes me a proper meal. Soon, I will also stop flailing and fail to move. No, I don't want this. I refuse. 2 more of my kin jump on the one eating me, knocking it away. The 3 of them engage in a flurry of deadly teeth, leaving me a moment alone. So many more of us rush down from the rapidly hatching pile of eggs. I turn over, 1 limb missing, blood oozing from a half-dozen absent hunks of flesh. Yet still, my hunger screams at me to join the fray. I refuse it. I must refuse it. I do not want to become empty of the thing that brings joy. I do not want to cease moving. Crawling desperately, I stagger across the ground, splashing the brown and green terrain with black. Panicked and frightened, I move as far as I possibly can, panting gasps of air as my burning body refuses to travel a single step more. Where do I go? What do I do? I'm so hungry. So very, very hungry. Something twitches, and my eyes lock onto it immediately. A many-legged thing, like my first meal, suspends itself in the air, hiding in a knock of brown above me. It is not black, matching instead the colors of the large, brown and green things around me that do not smell like food. This new creature crawls slowly towards me on 8 legs, though I cannot see what it crawls on. Perhaps the air itself, though air has never given my legs purchase. This seems profoundly unfair, and so I decide to eat it. I do not move, because moving causes me pain and my meal seems inclined to approach me. Ever so slowly, I watch it get closer. Ever so slowly, it places itself in range to be consumed. Eventually, it lunges for me. I lunge back. My lunge is better. Delicious, delicious, delicious. This thing tastes far better than my kin. Gleefully, I tear into it, though it survives barely a few bites before its flavor becomes foul. I'm not disappointed by this for long, however, as many more like it descend down around me. I'm afraid, as the last time I fought outnumbered it brought me into this state in the first place. These creatures are barely half my size, though, and the other one I just ate was quite weak. More importantly, I really don't like all this black liquid I'm leaking. I don't like it at all. I want to eat something so it stops falling out. Also, I'm hungry. I'm always hungry, without exception. The pain, the need to gnaw and feast never leaves except for the barest moments when I swallow prey. Even now, the infinite emptiness rages within me, demanding I kill both my prizes. I will not, though. The loud one and the beautiful one are special. Far better tasting than the 8-legged creatures, although I have to admit I much prefer the webs I became able to make from devouring them than this softness I'm getting from my current prizes. I ate the 8-legged creatures for many sky grounds before acquiring my favorite traits of theirs, to my great surprise and delight. These 4-limbed creatures taste better, but their traits are less desirable. Well, I like them anyway. Stretching, I rouse from my rest, that constant ravenousness driving me to move again at last. I suspect I will not need to go far for a meal, however. My traps have caught many targets, hung and waiting for my jaws. As I crawl off my bed, however, the armor around my 4 limbs cracks and crumbles, sloughing off onto the ground. I screech in surprise, though the experience isn't painful, at least. Underneath my old arms are new ones, my 4 front limbs now each tipped with 5 tinier limbs. These are the structures the beautiful one used to have before I bit them off. No, I complain, scowling as I flex my new limbs. No. HHN? The loud one groans, peering my way. Oh, fuck, it has hands. I scowl. Hands. These soft, wiggly limb tips are going to be terrible for injuring prey. They're already uncomfortable to walk on, although thankfully my hind limbs have been getting better and better at balancing my full weight. I try to extrude my webs and, to my great relief, it seems each of my new limb tips have a tiny spinneret. I won't be able to make the webs as thick as I had before. Perhaps I can just use multiple thinner webs together? I will figure something out. Growling, I stagger as I try to stand on my hind limbs alone. They're getting stronger, but something about them still isn't quite right. I wander off with the assistance of my hands then, wincing as sharp rocks in the dirt press into them in ways I would have previously ignored. It's not long before I see something squirming in one of my many traps, and I happily free one of its limbs so I can better get my mouth around it. Limbs aren't the tastiest part of a creature's body, but that mostly doesn't matter. As soon as the creature dies, it loses all flavor. I don't know why, but that's how it is. I can't eat something when it can no longer move. So I've experimented. I'd rather have more bites than just one good one, and biting off the extra dangly bits first always seems to be the best way to keep my prey twitching as long as possible. When I take out the central bits with all the weird meat inside, it tends to make the prey no longer move, and then it tastes awful. Many more ground skies pass over like this, with my time spent listening to the beautiful one's noises while the loud one complains, soaking in every last sound they make while I nibble away at their ever-growing extremities. Today, water streams from the eyes of the loud one as I feast on it, something that hasn't happened in quite a while. I wonder what it means. Am I making them drink too much? I don't remember, the loud one whispers, its voice odd. Perhaps affected by the eye water? What? Fulvia? The beautiful one turns its head to look at its companion. What don't you remember? Their names. My meal moans. I don't remember their names. Whose names? Fulvia? Fulvia, listen to me. Look at me, please. Claretta, I can't feel it anymore. It's eating me but I can't feel it. Fulvia, I've already cast the numbing spell. Remember? The loud one has been continually getting more and more annoying, and frankly its taste is also getting worse. Perhaps the beautiful one's songs aren't enough to keep the flavor. I may have to kill them after all. I don't want to do that. I move to the next budding limb nub, the beautiful one halting its less interesting noises in order to sing what made my favorite meal. Well, the beautiful one. The loud one is losing flavor, but I don't want to kill it. Would I want it if it has no flavor at all? I'm not sure. I'm just not sure. I finish my meal, walking over to and curling up on the beautiful one again. The pair of them remind me of flowers. I still remember the first time my life stopped being a constant fight for food and survival. Once I had eaten whole nests of the 8-legged creatures and had no other food to consume or flee from. I took a look, for the first time, at the world around me. At the beautiful yellow sky, the brown and green ground, and flecked among all of it the patches of vibrant color that captured my attention. They, too, I could not eat, but I loved them anyway. Yet whenever I tried to move one, to take it with me, it would lose its beauty just a few sky grounds later. Is that why the loud one loses flavor now? Did I move it too far? Oh, another thought. Maybe the beautiful one could heal flowers? Fulvia, the beautiful one murmurs. Fulvia, please say something. Only silence answers it. The loud one sleeps. It's been doing more of that lately, too. Fulvia. I'm sorry. I can't give up on you. Please. Please don't leave me. Water starts leaking from the beautiful one's eyes as well. Fulvia. Please. You're all I have. I rise up, curious now. Walking forward on my greatest prize's chest, I place one of my tiny hands up high on its cheek, patting at the water. What, I ask, Fulva? The beautiful one's eyes go wide, locking onto me immediately. What did you say? I don't quite understand. Confusion for confusion, I think. What? Fulvia? I repeat, taking more time and care with the sounds. That's Fulvia. It answers, motioning its head towards the loud one. I point that way as well. Fulvia? I confirm. Yes. Yes. Oh God, you're not just parroting. You understand. Please. Let us go, please. I tap the beautiful one's mouth with my hand until it stops making noises. I don't know what all that means. It sounds like Fulvia is a term for the loud one, though. Interesting. So if I'm guessing right. Fulvia, I say, pointing at the loud one. Then, I point at the beautiful one. Claretta? Yes. It answers. I am Claretta. Ooh. That was the first time the beautiful one said Claretta. I think I'm onto something. Fulvia, I say, pointing to the Fulvia. Claretta, I say, pointing to the Claretta I'm standing on. The Claretta's eyes are alight with something. Its face is twisted in an expression I hadn't seen before. Yes, yes, that's right. That's Fulvia, I'm Claretta. It motions at the Fulvia when saying Fulvia again. I'm right, I have to be. So next, I point at myself. What? I ask. The Claretta says nothing, its face moving into a new expression again. What? I demand again. I don't know, the Claretta answers. Fulvia, Claretta, I say, pointing at them. Then, back to me. I don't know. The Claretta moves its head back and forth. No, no. I don't know. Oh, it's using no. What I'm saying isn't right. What? I ask again, pointing at myself. I don't know. But that's the thing the Claretta just said is wrong. Uck. What? I demand, teeth bared. What? Lark. The Claretta blurts. Your name is Lark. If you want. Do you like that? What? Larkanimus larka hyphunto laktha is way too long of a thing to call myself. This food is crazy. Just the first part, though. Lark, I repeat, tasting the sound. The sound I've come to love more than any other. The music of the beautiful one. I am Lark. A new kind of warmth fills me, compelling me to bare my teeth in a much different way. I feel so good. The Claretta had been singing about me all along. Fancy-looking place, I comment, staring up at the massively wide one-story building that apparently serves as the base for the broken Drockens. I'm not entirely lying, either. Sure, the building is no lord's estate or anything, and that's certainly a fresh comparison in my mind after having been there this morning. Parts of the walls are cracked and stained, and patches of mold cling to whatever they can on the outside of the structure. To my sensibilities, though, it's still a high-class location, sitting at the fuzzy intersection of the city that separates everything else from what I consider to be my part of town. Comprised of wrought stone rather than clay or wood, it makes up for what it lacks in tallness with sturdiness. The two hired killers escorting me snort derisively. Based on the standards of power I'm now familiar with, I suspect they're fairly low rung for any group that specializes in murder. Cheap hires, but is that all the Drockens could afford, or is it just all they need? They're above the average soul strength of the people in the building, although that's not really saying a lot. There are only 2 souls of any real interest inside. Either way, while Squigs and Friggs are now weaker than I am, they're far from incompetent. They certainly do a good job of tracking me down whenever they want to, and they're a lethal threat to any average person. A pair of tough-looking muscly dudes guard the door, but their souls are so small and uninteresting I barely bother to glance at them until one puts his hand out to block me from entering. "Weapons, please," he asks in that polite yet vaguely threatening way that I've known better than to disobey for most of my weak, helpless life. "No," I tell the man, glaring up at him. "I didn't recently commit a genocide just to be pushed around by this moron." The taller of the assassin pair puts a hand on my shoulder, prompting me to direct my glare his way. "It's just standard procedure, little lady," he insists in that greasy way of his. "We want to make sure these talks are safe for everyone." "Well, you'll be safer if you don't try to take my weapons," I answer, shrugging his hand off my shoulder. "I was invited here to talk, wasn't I? If you keep adding conditions to the conversation, I'm going to walk away." "Miss Vita," Friggs pipes up from the other side of me, his tone lacking the condescension of his counterpart. "I realize you are a hunter and a young woman of the streets, but my compatriot and I lack the authority to allow you unarmed. This is the faster way into the building, if you want to finish this business sooner. If not, we can certainly send your request higher up the chain, as it were." I frown, weighing the practicality against my desire to just get this over with. "I'm keeping my stuff," I eventually insist again. "I'm not talking to your boss without it." Friggs nods as if he expected that, turning to the door guard. "Would you kindly go explain the situation? The boss has requested this young lady's presence." The guard glances down and gives me the incredulous look of an idiot that doesn't realize I can kill him with a thought, though he heads inside without a word. I wait in silence for the guy to eventually return, nodding me inside. It's been obvious for a while where I'm going. The largest souls in the complex are huddled together in the same place, after all. It doesn't take a genius to figure out that's probably the boss and either his right-hand men or bodyguards. There are only 2 I'm confident I won't be able to just casually pull out, though. I'm soon ushered into the same room as them, letting me put faces to the feelings. The room is large and almost circular, with only one obvious way in or out. The entirety of the architecture and utter lack of most furniture seems designed to draw attention to the giant chair in the back of the room, a twisted, lopsided thing carved of wood and far too large for its occupant, the first of the 2 large-souled people. He's obviously the boss, not only by nature of sitting in the fanciest chair but by how the others stand around him, ready to follow his commands at a whim. He's a profoundly feminine-looking man, with short-cropped black hair, a thin, green-eyed glare, and a pale face that's so impeccably clean-shaven I suspect he may not be able to grow a beard at all. Thin-framed and short, although still much taller than I am, as fucking usual, the chair is clearly designed to make him the tallest person in the room anyway, even when sitting down. His soul is white-hot, a glaring, painful brightness wrapped with spiky structures that curl towards each other like claws. Standing next to him among a collection of other people that don't really matter is a remarkably eye-catching young woman, partially because of her beauty but far more obviously because she has, for some insane reason, dyed her hair pink. Normally I'd assume it's some kind of chiromancy or particularly wacky biomancy that creates the change in hair color, but it's very obviously dye since, during the process, she seems to have splattered the left side of her face with the stuff. Pink splotches along her right cheek and around her eye mar what would otherwise be blemishless skin, an insane and careless use of expensive dyes made ever more wasteful by having not even been applied correctly. I'm certainly irritated by that, but her soul manages to be so eye-catching I only give it a passing thought. One half of it is a dark, navy blue, cool and swirling like the mist below and clouds above. The other half is a deep black, though in a different sort of way than my eggshell had been. My darkness had been not just a lack of light, but the negation of it, a place warded from being seen. Conversely, the black of this woman's soul is of depth, of vastness, like a cavern inside the island that stretches from end to end. These 2 halves have a jagged crack between them, like someone broke a rock in twain and rotated one part before trying to put it back together. They do not fit with each other, and between them, in those minuscule, crumpled, grinding cracks a third color grows. A festering purple, dripping and writhing like ooze. I've met a fellow monster. So then, you must be Vita, the boss says, and I'm a little startled to hear his voice sound exactly like a woman's. That's jarring. He's a man, right? I'm certain he's a man. Didn't someone tell me that, or something? I must be Vita, I agree blandly. I'm flattered to be brought to see you directly, sir. He raises an eyebrow, glare quirking into a smile. Oh? Well, you know how it is. A nobody kid with a volcanic rise in power like yours? In my territory? I'm always interested in the story of a person like that. Volcanic? I ask, raising an eyebrow. I've never heard the word. Ah, perhaps I should say explosive, the boss explains. The point is, you're growing fast. You've obviously awakened to quite the killer talent. I am, of course, in the business of recruiting such talent from our kind of background. I look around the room, unimpressed. Not much of a business if he only has one other person. The inhuman soul of the pink-haired woman starts to stir and I lock my third eye on it. She's not about to blast me, is she? What do you mean, our kind of background? The slums, the boss answers, eyes piercing as he reads my reaction. The streets. The background of starving with nothing while those with everything continued to take. I snort incredulously, glaring up at him. Fuck, that chair is designed to look like a throne, isn't it? I just got that. You just look like one of the people that take to me, I answer flatly. Lynn and Rowan don't even have enough time to protect their own kids from thugs anymore. Is that so? The boss asks, his soul pulsing fury like a sudden gout of flame. Well, it's a busy time for everyone in the Drockens right now, but I can give them some time off if it's needed. I scowl. Just like that? I'm instantly suspicious. As if to confirm those suspicions, purple threads start to slide out of the cracks in the pink-haired woman's soul, snaking slowly towards me as they grow in length. And what do you want in return? I ask the boss. He just gives me a confused look. In return for giving a valued employee the time she needs to manage her family affairs? Nothing whatsoever. I don't usually oversee every employee's schedule personally, but I will certainly check with management on the matter. He's so prim and proper. Yet in a weird, mocking way, as if it's some kind of private joke. He wears a fancy nobleman's suit, yet with the shirt untucked and the collar up. I've never seen an actual noble wear it like that, and I'm not sure what it means. Fashion is about the opposite of my thing. I see, I murmur. Well, on the subject of employees. Who is that? I point to the pink-haired woman. While multiple tough-looking guards flank the boss of the Drockens, she is the only one that stands directly next to the boss's fancy chair. She smiles vacantly in my direction, her apparent mirth masking the intense concentration I feel in her soul. Presumably, her focus is on extending her pathetic excuses for soul tendrils. Well, perhaps I shouldn't call them tendrils. They're not really anything like mine, being far longer and almost imperceptibly thin. Though they are soul structures, they're clearly not designed for grabbing, holding, or pulling other souls. Especially noteworthy to me, however, is that she does not seem to be casting. Her fingers do not move, she makes no sound with her voice. The purple bits of her soul, and only the oozy purple bits, thrum with the use of a talent. I am, perhaps, not alone. Oh, please excuse my rudeness. The boss exclaims, smiling jovially. I haven't even introduced everyone. I am Sky, the leader of the Broken Drockens. This is Capita, my right-hand woman. And this is... I stop paying attention. Capita, huh? I wait patiently as her purple threads finish leaking out of the crack in her soul, trying to worm their way into my body to reach at mine. To my surprise they pass in easily, barely even pinging my magic resistance. I probably wouldn't have even felt them if I hadn't been watching. I don't have any intention of letting them complete whatever they're trying to do, however. Wrapping my tendrils around the threads, I gather them up and yank. They break off from Capita's soul with all the resistance of a cobweb. The young woman's pleasant smile evaporates as she staggers forward, clutching at her chest. I pull her detached soul threads the rest of the way inside my body, slurping them up like anima spaghetti. They dissolve within me, destroyed utterly, reduced to nothing but power. It's not even a remotely filling snack, but at least the taste is interesting. I've found another animancer. I shoot her a pleasant smile not unlike the one she gave me, though on the inside I'm very annoyed. This whole debacle probably outs me as an animancer to the Drockants as well, but what the fuck am I going to do? Just let her stick her gross soul hairs into me? No thanks. Now that I'm stuck in this situation, I may as well establish dominance in it. By all means, my smile says. Try that again. I'm always happy to take a free meal. Capita? The boss inquires, noticing his underling's reaction. I don't appreciate being invited here and having spells cast on me, Mr. Sky, I say coldly. Tension passes through the room as everyone in it starts to become aware that Capita and I had a magical exchange that nobody else even noticed was happening. And I won. Capita's soul is huge, certainly larger than mine and perhaps even Penelope's. Sky's is similar, though a bit smaller. But if Capita is just going to send tiny threads at me instead of bringing that full soul to bear, I have more than enough strength to stop her. My most sincere apologies, Sky says smoothly, languidly pulling his gaze from Capita back to me. It won't happen again. Yeah, I bet. So, what do you want from me? I ask plainly. I want you to join the Drockants, Sky answers, matching my tone. Well, I drawl, you haven't exactly made a very good impression so far. And I'm pretty damn busy nowadays. So I think I'm going to say no. Vita, the boss of the Drockants begins, steepling his fingers. I grew up starving in the slums I now call my territory, just like you did. From what I know about you, you came into sudden power and decided to use it, pulling your family up out of the jaws of death with strength alone. A hunter. A truly dangerous job, but one you have clearly taken to with aplomb. But you could do so much more. I roll my eyes. By all means, enlighten me. Sky doesn't seem to take offense, only leaning forward with apparent excitement. Thanks to you, your family prospers. With me, you can help make the whole city prosper. Do what you're doing to your family, but for everyone. Really, I growl. You're helping the city? The slums? I have lived here my entire life, and I have never once seen the Drockants do anything remotely helpful for anybody. You've been extorting and sucking money up from my family since before I met them. The boss raises a thin eyebrow. I have indeed been sucking up money, as you put it, but there has never been extortion involved. The man of your house simply gambles all your money away. That's hardly my fault. I blink, suddenly struck dumb for words as the anger I've built up for this conversation falls over and sputters. Rowan? Yes, that's his name. Sky agrees, snapping his fingers. Rowan. He's a gambling addict, my dear. Why do you think I keep such a talented individual at the lowest rung of our organization? We can't tell him anything important. Why, I bet almost anyone could just come along and bribe him into spying for them, what with how much he owes us. No. No way. I don't believe it. Rowan? He's literally a con artist, he knows gambling is a sham. And he's good. He's the one always worried about whether or not I'm doing something wrong with my powers. He's the one that brings home all the money that we buy food with. I mean, until I started doing that. And the amount he buys food with is always a lot less than the amount he keeps. And he is in debt to the Drockants. Holy shit, I'm going to murder him. Maybe not actually, but still. And that line Sky said about spying. Does he know? I recognize that your family isn't fond of me, Vita, Sky continues. And I recognize you have good reasons not to like me. I would simply like to change that. I snort. Seriously? This guy thinks it's that easy? He just wants to talk me into being cool with the people that fucked over my family for over a year? I don't understand. You really expect me to just be happy with you out of nowhere? You're not giving me any concrete reason to think you're anything you say to be. You don't care. You just want me now because I'm strong. You're not that strong, Sky counters, smiling. But at the rate you've been growing, I believe you will be. I won't deny that's why I want you. But I believe I have much to offer you as you have to offer us, perhaps even more. If, of course, you're willing to listen. Oh, I see now. You would get along really well with Penelope, I realize. I'm sorry? Sky asks, tilting his head and flashing an unamused smile. Penelope, I repeat. My teammate. Third Lady Penelope Vesuvius? You're a lot like her. The boss's face twists into sudden fury, and I feel talents activating from people all around the room. That was, Apparently, the wrong thing to say.